Good morning, everyone. It is Sunday, February the 7th, 2021. It is currently 7:40 a.m. Central Time, and I'm coming to you live from Victory Baptist Church, located right here in Ovalo, Texas. Now, I want you to really try hard to imagine the following scenario. I want you to really try to imagine this as if it was happening to you, all right? Imagine you owned a very successful business and you are projecting that over the next few years you would be making millions of dollars, if not billions of dollars. And one day you're in your car, you're driving to work, and you turn on the radio and you're just going through the dial and you come across, let's say, a Christian radio station. And you hear them mention your company. They mention your business and you're like, oh, why are they mentioning my business? And you continue to listen and you're like, wait, what? And you hear that on Christian radio, they are accusing your business of doing something really bad, doing something that could impact the entire country, could change the future of this country, and that your company did something illegal, did something underhanded, did something sinister. And they're blaming your company by name right there on Christian radio. And you're in shock. You can't believe it. And you're like, wait, we've got to get to work. We've got to figure out what's going on. You get to work and you start looking around, and then you realize that Christians all over the place are on social media spreading this rumor, this accusation that your company has done something horrible. And the next thing you know, you start receiving death threats. The next thing you know, you start losing business. And now your projection of making millions, making billions, you don't even know if your company is going to survive. How would you feel about Christians? Would you be upset? That all these accusations, everything they're accusing you of, listen, is absolutely false. But you can't seem to stop it. It just continues, it continues. The lie just continues to spread. The lie just continues to spread. And everything you try to do, you just can't stop it. Now, I think you, if you're honest, would be very upset, and you probably would be very confused, going, wait a minute, why would Christians be telling this lie? Why would Christians be spreading this lie? Why are Christians doing this? Aren't they supposed to act in a different way? And maybe you're familiar with the scripture, and maybe you're familiar with verses like Ephesians chapter 4, verse 25. Ephesians chapter 4, verse 25, which reads, wherefore putting away lying, speak every man truth with his neighbor, for we are members one of another. Christians are to put away lying and to speak the truth. Why? Because with his neighbor, because we are members one of another. We should not treat fellow human beings that way. We should not treat our neighbor that way. In fact, we are supposed to love our neighbor as we love ourselves. Well, if we're supposed to love our neighbor, then why would we be telling lies? Why would we be spreading lies about a neighbor, about this business that's now putting them in jeopardy of even surviving? They're going to lose millions, if not billions of dollars. Should Christians feel bad? Should Christians repent? Maybe. You're not familiar with Ephesians, but you are familiar with, the book of Exodus and the Ten Commandments. And there we read these words. Exodus chapter 20, verse 16. Thou shalt not bear false witness against thy neighbor. You're not to bear false witness against your neighbor. The scriptures are clear. We are not to lie. We are not to bear false witness. We do not say and do things that are going to hurt someone that is based completely off innuendo, rumors, and absolute lies. That's not something Christians should do, but it's the very thing that Christians engaged in 2020 going into 2021. And the lie that got told over and over and over had to do with the election. And the lie had to do something with the election, Donald Trump, and that the election had been stolen. That widespread voter fraud stole the election from Donald Trump. And it all came down to some computer software. that this computer software was designed to change the vote. And this computer software was used to steal the election from Donald Trump. This computer software changed votes, millions of votes. They were actually cast for Donald Trump, but the computer software changed them over to Biden. It was wrong. It was fraud. The election was stolen, and this needs to be exposed. So places like American Family Radio would day after day tell this story about the election being stolen and this computer software, this evil computer software. Christians all over the place on social media was spreading the same information. But did anyone ever bother to stop and go, wait a minute, is this true? Because if it's not true, we are attacking a company. We're attacking a business. We are attacking an individual who owns that business and all the people who work for it. Was it true? Was it accurate? Well, let's listen to the following report.
Do you have the filing in front of you?
Give me a second. It's rather heavy, so yes.
Yeah. How many pages is it?
It's 280 pages.
And would you mind just reading me the beginning?
The earth is round. 2 + 2 = 4. Joe Biden and Kamala Harris won the 2020 election for president and vice president of the United States. The election was not stolen, rigged, or fixed. These are facts. They are demonstrable and irrefutable. Defendants have always known these facts. They knew Joe Biden and Kamala Harris won the 2020 U.S. election. They knew the election was not stolen. They knew the election was not rigged or fixed. They knew these truths just as they knew the earth is round and 2 + 2 = 4. Defendants did not want Joe Biden and Kamala Harris to win the election. They wanted President Donald Trump and Vice President Michael Pence to win re-election. Defendants were disappointed. Defendants decided to tell people that the election was stolen from President Trump and Vice President Pence. Defendants had an obvious problem with their story. They needed a villain. Defendants decided to make Smartmatic the villain in their story. Having invented their story and created their villain, defendants set about spreading the word. Night after night, publication after publication, Vax News reached out to its millions of viewers and readers around the world with a story. Joe Biden and Kamala Harris did not win the 2020 election. Smartmatic stole the election for them.
From the New York Times, I'm Michael Barbaro. This is The Daily. Smartmatic, an election software company, has just filed a defamation lawsuit against Fox News over false claims spread by the network about the company's role in the 2020 election. The move follows a similar lawsuit by another election software company, Dominion. Together, the lawsuits are raising the possibility that the courts might be one of the few remaining ways to confront the country's crisis of disinformation. Today,
the country's crisis of disinformation. The country's crisis of misinformation. Okay, listen to me carefully. What my concern is the church's crisis of disinformation, the church's crisis of misinformation. When you have Christian radio stations who talked about the Dominion computer software, Smartmatic, accused it of changing the election over and over and over and over again. They spoke of it dogmatically. They allowed accusations to be aired without any critique or criticism at all. They just spread the information on Christian radio. Now, you would think Christian radio, would have other things to do. I don't know. Preach the gospel. I don't know. Talk about theology, talk about church history, talk about the Bible. But Christianity in America has been so politically hijacked that they had to get right there in on it, right? Who cares if it destroys a company? Who cares if it destroys people's lives? Who cares if it leads to people getting death threats? Because Christians don't care about truth anymore. We care about our political ideology. So maybe the court system is the only way to stop this crisis of misinformation. It would just be sad that Christian organizations would have to be sued, listen, for not telling the truth. How bad is the situation inside the American church when it comes to all kinds of questions of morality about sexuality, morality about so many issues. People may struggle, you may have a hard time, but you think that at the very least the church could say, hey, put away lying, speak the truth, and don't bear false witness. You think that would be like just a basic level of morality that even Christians could pull off, right? I mean, there are people in the world who can pull that off. You think Christians, at the very least, should be able to say, you know what? Those are some crazy accusations. I'm going to be very careful about spreading those accusations because I don't want to bear false witness. I'm told to speak the truth. I have a level of morality when it comes to truth speaking that I'm supposed to follow. And the scripture is pretty clear. Look, even lost people know, don't lie, speak the truth, right? I mean, that's just pretty basic human morality. But Christians, no. Oh, who cares about morality when it comes to the election of Donald Trump? We would sacrifice morality on the altar in 3.2 seconds as long as we got the political results that we want. So there was Christian radio spreading it, Christian ministers spreading it, being spread from pulpits, being spread all over social media, Christian after Christian. I'm worried about the crisis of disinformation and misinformation inside the Christian church. They're going to focus on this inside Fox News. And sadly, Fox News is where a lot of Christians believe the epitome of truth. They find truth in Fox News without even watch that with even a little bit of, being skeptical and with a critical eye and doing further research, because if it's Fox News, that's, you have the Bible which ends in the book of Revelation. And then, the continuing stream of revelation, the continuing stream of information that comes from God comes through Fox News. I mean, you had to know that, right? I mean, that's where Christians get their news from, correct? So because everything else is wrong, Fox News is the bastion of truth. Yes, I'm being very sarcastic because I'm very irritated by all of this, because I am so tired of the fact that day after day, I would get in my car to drive to this church to do live broadcasting. And on the way, I would listen to American Family Radio, not just nonstop with this idea that the election was stolen based off Dominion, Smartmatic, this computer software that was used. And they would go into all these elaborate details and how it worked. And they would say the proof is out there. They never really provided the proof. They never gave the proof. They just kept making the claims. Well, let's listen to this report, because they're going to talk to people, who's a part of the Smartmatic company. And they're going to talk about this lawsuit. And, maybe this is the way to, maybe going after people financially. Maybe American Family Radio needs to be sued. Maybe they need to be sued. Now, I do not like censorship. I want people to be able to speak whatever. But man, alive, within the Christian world, we should at least pursue truth. At least we should pursue truth. Just listen to this. This story is insane. And there's just one part of this story that I just want you to hear. And really, you need to hear it over and over and over and over again. You're going to know it when you get to it. And you may have to just stop and go, wait, what? I wasn't told that. And listen, if you were the one out there sharing this false information, I'm telling you, you need to post a complete retraction and an apology and repent. You can't lie about people over and over and over and over and over and over again. And that goes against everything that you're supposed to stand for as a Christian. But Christian radio is not going to apologize, and most Christians are not going to apologize. There's plenty of Christians who still believe the lies about this. But let's listen to this. Here we go.
My colleague, media columnist Ben Smith, speaks with Smartmatic's CEO and the lawyer bringing the case. It's Friday, February 5th.
Where are you now, Antonio?
I'm in Boca Raton, Florida.
Oh, back in Florida, back where it all began.
Yeah, exactly. We still are headquartered.
So a good place to start this story is in early 2000 in Florida, where Antonio Mujica had just moved from Venezuela. Okay. And how did you land in Boca, just to begin? He was a software engineer, and he just founded a digital security company, Smartmatic. It was mostly working with banks.
But, something happened that put us in the path of elections.
But this was Florida in 2000. And so a few months in, he had a front row seat to the incredible debacle that was Bush v. Gore.
And we just couldn't believe, that the most powerful country on earth didn't know how to count its votes. And it was at that time that actually my co-founder said, why don't we apply our security tech to design a voting solution? And it seemed like a good idea. And by 2005, we were already kind of the largest provider of voting technology in the world.
Okay, so let's fast forward to, say, October of 2020. Just give me a thumbnail sketch of your business. Where are your biggest elections? Where are your biggest customers?
Well, I mean, we have customers in 25 countries around the world. The largest customers we have, I would say the largest is the Philippines. It's a pretty large country. It's 7,000 islands, has 65 million voters. We provide all the technology and support services for the election for the entire country. And we provide results in a matter of hours.
Smartmatic has become the multinational, multi-million-dollar company of Antonio's dreams. And then comes last November. And so tell me, when do you first hear the name Smartmatic pop up in the discussion of the election?
It was, I forget the exact date.
Former New York City Mayor and President Trump's personal attorney, Rudy Giuliani, is working to establish how many legal votes were actually cast, and he joins me right now.
It was kind of 4 or 5 days after the election, the first time that I think...
Good morning, Maria.
It was Giuliani that, said something.
I mean, it's way beyond what people think, including a very, very dangerous foreign company.
I mean, completely unexpected.
The software that they use is done by a company called Smartmatic.
The gist of these allegations was that Dominion, the company whose voting machines were actually used in some swing states like Georgia, was using Smartmatic software, and that software was flipping votes from Donald Trump to Joe Biden.
And this company has tried and true methods for fixing elections.
And bound up in that idea was this idea that Venezuela, which is where Antonio is from and which was one of his first customers, was somehow part of these shady dealings.
It's a company that was founded by Chavez and by Chavez's two allies who still own it. It's been used to cheat in elections in South America.
Of course, one thing you'd never want to see is, Fox News with a big screen saying, this is the people you got to remember.
And that pattern that you have there, we have evidence that that's the same pattern Smartmatic used in other elections in which they were disqualified.
And see my name there being, basically pointed at as a criminal.
This whole thing has to be investigated as a national security matter.
When that happened, to be very honest with you, I thought, okay, this is just kind of some kind of a mistake or, confusion that someone has. Because, this is one guy saying one thing one time and that's it. It's such a big fantasy and it's so outrageous that, this will have no legs.
And this has to be examined, Maria, beyond this election, which I believe will get overturned.
But no such luck.
Wow. All right, Rudy, we're going to be following your investigation. Thank you very much for breaking all of this news on this program this morning.
It didn't stop with Giuliani.
Cindy, thanks very much for being here. We appreciate your time this morning. I want to get right into it. We just heard about the software made by Smartmatic from Rudy.
Sidney Powell, one of the main lawyers bringing court cases on behalf of the Trump campaign, also found a home on Fox for her allegations about Smartmatic.
We have so much evidence, I feel like it's coming in through a fire hose. President Trump won by not just hundreds of thousands of votes, but by millions of votes that were shifted by this software that was designed expressly for that purpose.
In the days that followed Joe Biden being declared the president-elect, these allegations just kept exploding all over Fox.
It is one huge, huge criminal conspiracy that should be investigated by military intelligence for its national security implications.
And we're being spread not just by guests like Giuliani and Powell.
Welcome back. The election results in several battleground states continued to be under intense focus as allegations of voter fraud are being investigated.
But by Fox anchors themselves.
Well, now to the widespread irregularities, anomalies, and cheating in the presidential election. President Trump's legal team says potentially rigged voting machines demand a national security investigation.
You know, after a few days, it was clear that this was gonna turn into something really big.
The conspiracy theories spread all over right-wing media, to places like Newsmax and One America News Network. The name Smartmatic became synonymous with the notion of a stolen election.
One source says that the key point to understand is that this Smartmatic system has a back door that allows the votes to be mirrored and monitored, allowing an intervening party a real-time understanding of how many votes will be needed to gain an electoral advantage. Are you saying the states that use that software did that?
Well, I can prove that they did it in Michigan.
But here's the real kicker. And now, just to be clear, did you have any business in Georgia this year?
No, zero. Not only this year, I've never had any business in Georgia.
They did it absolutely in Phoenix, Arizona.
How about Arizona?
No, zero.
They did it in big cities where they have corrupt machines that will protect them, meaning Pennsylvania, Philadelphia, and Pittsburgh.
Pennsylvania?
Zero. We had no business in any of the, swing states or the contested states. Actually, we didn't have any business in the U.S. outside of LA County.
I want you to hear that. They had no business outside of LA County. I want you to hear that again. They had no business outside of LA County. Did Christian radio say that? No. Did Christians all over social media say that? No. They spread the lie that in all of these key swing states that this software was being used and it was used to steal the election from Donald Trump. Christians bore false witness. Christians lied. Christians are liars. And the church needs to repent of that. Every Christian who spread that misinformation, whenever I would talk about this, I would get emails from Christians saying, I don't care if you call me a conspiracy theorist. I don't care if you call me a conspiracy theorist. Okay, maybe you don't care if I call you a conspiracy theorist. What if I call you a liar? Then should you care? That is insane. The software was not used anywhere outside of LA County, but it was being accused of stealing the election in all of these states and all of these swing states. And the software wasn't even being used. Don't you see how utterly ridiculous that is? Don't you see how embarrassing that is for everyone within Christianity who spread this misinformation? I'm going to back that up again because this needs to be put on a loop and just played over and over and over and over and over and over and over for like 2 years until people finally get it. I'm going to try to back this up just a little bit. All right, let's go back here. I'm going to go back just a little bit. Here we go.
Zero.
All right, hang on. We're going to go back a little further than that. Here we go.
Anomalies, and cheating in the presidential election. President Trump's legal team says potentially rigged voting machines demand a national security investigation.
After a few days, it was clear that this was gonna turn into something really big.
The conspiracy theories spread all over right-wing media, to places like Newsmax and One America News Network. The name Smartmatic became synonymous with the notion of a stolen election.
One source says that the key point to understand is that this Smartmatic system has a back door that allows the votes to be mirrored and monitored, allowing an intervening party a real-time understanding of how many votes will be needed to gain an electoral advantage. Are you saying the states that use that software did that?
Well, I can prove that they did it in Michigan.
But here's the real kicker. And now, just to be clear, did you have any business in Georgia this year?
No, zero. Not only this year, I've never had any business in Georgia.
They did it absolutely in Phoenix, Arizona.
How about Arizona?
No, zero.
They did it in big cities where they have corrupt machines that will protect them, meaning Pennsylvania, Philadelphia, and Pittsburgh.
Pennsylvania?
0. We had no business in any of the, swing states or the contested states. Actually, we didn't have any business in the U.S. outside of LA County, neither directly or indirectly.
No business inside the United States outside of LA County, directly or indirectly. I want you to just say that to yourself over and over and over, and then think of all of your Christian friends who are posting lies on social media. Are they going to repent of that? No, because they don't care. They don't care about an individual's company. They don't care about the damage done. They don't care because it was never about truth. It was about an election, and they wanted an outcome because they cared more about an election. They cared more about a politician. They cared more about politics than they did the basic morality that any human being should try to follow. But Scripture specifically tells Christians, put away lying, speak the truth, and do not bear false witness. And we can't even get that right within the Christian church in America. We can't even get that basic level. Let's continue.
That's what's so particularly crazy about this. Aside from providing software to LA County for its elections, Smartmatic played no other role in the 2020 election. It's total nonsense. But the consequences have been very real. There were the death threats, which by now, sadly, we're familiar with.
That pissed me off the most.
And then there's the money. What was for you sort of the darkest moment of this?
Look, to a certain degree, it still is. Of course, darkest moment is the moment that you start to recognize that the damage that's being done is probably impossible to recover from. And when you have basically 100% of your customers around the world and prospects around the world panicking, basically everybody that works with you either telling you they don't want to work with you anymore. Some of them say, look, we would love to work with you, but you're too toxic. We don't want the noise. Or asking for a million explanations, right? Because they're seeing this on kind of, Fox News in what's the kind of the most powerful and far-reaching news channel in the world. It's very hard to know if it's going to completely wipe us out or if it's just going to hit us very hard. And I don't know how long it would take, assuming we survive, how long it would take us to rebuild. It's hard to say. So definitely, what we were expecting to be a magnificent business for the next decade, it doesn't look that way anymore.
So just to the degree you can quantify it, how big a financial hit did you take? How much has this cost you so far?
Well, I mean, we have looked at our pipeline for the next 5 years and, our different forecasts for the next 5 years and what, we thought was, the most accurate forecast and then how we feel that forecast is being affected. And then looked at all the, of course, revenue that we think that we're going to lose because of this and that we feel confident we're going to lose because of this. And of course, that translates into lost profit. And that's how we reached the $2.7 billion.
$2.7 billion. That's a lot of money. And that's how much they decided to sue Fox News for.
Now imagine if your company, maybe your company you own was never going to make $1 billion, but whatever it was going to make, 300,000, 100,000, 200,000, 500,000, but it was enough to support your family. It was enough to give you, a decent life. And the next thing you know, because of lies, not only spread by Fox News, but spread by Christian media, that's the point I want to focus on, ends up destroying your company and your family gets death threats. Because people in the name of Jesus went out there and spread lies. American Family Radio did it over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. And no matter how many times I would email them, they never responded and they ignored me. Why? Because they didn't care about truth. I kept saying, wait a minute, I don't think this software was used in all of these states. I think this is certifiably not true. In fact, I even turned on this microphone. I did at least one podcast going, I've got information here that seems to say this software wasn't even being used in these states, but nobody would report it. Nobody would talk about it. Everyone ignored me. And now, well, Fox News, it's time to pay up. It's time to pay up. And do you think Fox News is a little concerned? Do you think they're concerned? Well, let's just, here's a story from yesterday. Lou Dobbs and the most problematic claims Trump allies made about voting machines. Lou Dobbs is out at Fox Business. Lou Dobbs was let go. He was fired. He had a very popular show on Fox News. He was gone. Why? I wonder why he could be gone. Why would they get rid of someone who has a very popular show on Fox News? Oh, because Lou Dobbs was on the air over and over and over and over and over again, spreading this lie. Let's listen to the report. Lou Dobbs is out at Fox News just a day after the voting machine company Smartmatic filed a $2.7 billion lawsuit against him. The cable news network and several others who gave this theory out, who promoted this debunked theory that its technology was used to commit massive voter fraud. The ouster of Dobbs, who was Fox Business's top-rated host, is merely the latest evidence of the very real impact of the legal threats from Smartmatic and another voting machine company, Dominion. After the initial threats were made, Fox News and Fox Business ran deposition-esque segments on the shows of the three anchors now sued by Smartmatic, and they get named the three that are being sued, downplaying the evidence of such claims. Yeah, after this lawsuit came in, they were like, we would like to hear on Fox News, like they were giving a deposition in court, that certain accusations were made. And then they walked back. Why did they walk it back? Because they made it all up. Newsmax read a statement on air saying pretty much the same thing, and it has since awkwardly tried to shut down MyPillow CEO Mike Lindell when he made such claims. One American News has ridiculed its far-right competitor for censoring Lindell. In fact, hang on, where the page just reflashed. But it has quietly removed several stories about Dominion from its website, and the station carrying Rudy Giuliani's radio show on Thursday played a disclaimer distancing itself from claims made on the show. All right, so everyone now is backing up. Now look, if you had the evidence and you have the truth, why would you back up? Why would you take a step back? You would come at me. Come on, bring it. Bring your lawsuit. We've got overwhelming evidence. It's so clear, and we're going to prove it in court. No, now they're backing up and they're scared. Yeah, when you get threatened, all of a sudden you wake up. Maybe American Family Radio would wake up and respond if they got sued for $2.7 billion. Because they're sure not going to listen to me and my emails, because they could care less what I have to say. They could care less what you have to say. They care more. They don't care about you. They care about their political viewpoint. That's the whole point that I've been trying to make. The Christian church has been so politically hijacked that we now, the basic standard of telling the truth and not bearing false witness is no longer a part of Christian morality. It's no longer a part of Christian morality when it comes to politics. Truth doesn't matter. And Christians, and again, and all I would ever get for people, whenever I would do any podcast on this is no, the evidence is overwhelming. You wait and see. I guarantee. Oh yeah, okay. Well, you keep promoting that lie, and then whenever I would call anyone out on it, would they send an email back after and doing any investigating to apologize? No. Would they say they were wrong? No. All they would say is, I don't care if you call me a conspiracy theorist. Well, okay, I'm not going to call you a conspiracy theorist anymore. I'm just going to start calling Christians liars who promote lies and speak lies in the name of Christ. Let's continue.
In 2021, mental health is finally cool. But therapy doesn't have to be sitting around just talking about feelings.
They got to do one of their little commercials. They got to do one of their commercials. I know that was anticlimactic. Yeah, you can tell I'm upset about this. I am, because it's just this was everywhere. And guess what? Now everyone's just moving on. All the people who promoted this lie, go listen to their programs now. Oh, they're just moving on. Now they're going to just go focus on something else. They're not going to even deal with, how did we get this so wrong? How did we mess this up? Now, anyone can make a mistake.
Of these allegations being made against Smartmatic.
So I had heard of the allegations about Smartmatics just from watching TV, but I got contacted by Smartmatics a little after Thanksgiving, and they brought this to my attention and asked me to look into it. And when they first called me, it was obviously a very somber conversation.
Eric Connolly is a lawyer in Chicago, and when Antonio decided to take action against Fox News, Eric is who he reached out to.
And so after I spoke with them for about an hour, I spent another hour just watching the news clips, the Fox broadcasts, to get my head around it. And by the end of that, it was very apparent to me that there had been a campaign, and that if what they were saying wasn't true, that was one of the biggest disinformation campaigns I'd ever seen.
Now, why just go after Fox? There's other media outlets, notably Newsmax and OANN, who have been just as aggressive about this stuff.
So we're still investigating and analyzing who to bring our lawsuits against. I think you can tell simply by the length of the complaint that we have filed that they take a long time to put together, and we do a lot of due diligence before we file them. And so it is one step at a time. And certainly when we look at who had a microphone that could reach millions of people in the United States and billions of people across the world with this information, it's Fox.
You're not just going after them because they have deeper pockets and you don't want to own a small cable network?
Fox has the biggest microphone. They have the biggest platform. And because of that, they can do the most damage.
And now in your own career, I mean, is this something that has interested you, this kind of political disinformation? I mean, were you looking for a case like this?
I was not looking for a case like this. I first had a defamation case several years ago for a company based in South Dakota. And that was the first time I'd ever done a defamation case before. And it happened to be the largest defamation case that had ever been filed.
What Eric is not fully saying here is that there's a reason he was chosen for this job. In 2017, he and his partner won the largest settlement in the history of American media defamation.
And now a startling ABC News investigation. A whistleblower has come forward to tell consumers about the ground beef a lot of us buy at the supermarket.
He represented a beef production company whose product was described rather unappetizingly by ABC News as
pink slime.
Pink slime.
Pink slime. Pink slime.
We're talking about lean, finely textured beef. It's the component in ground meat made just 90 miles north in Sioux City.
You can actually trace a pretty clear line from there to here, to going after the red slime, the disinformation, in some cases outright lies coming from the conservative media world. At a moment when it's pretty unclear how to stop that slime, and as the consequences of its spread are becoming more and more clear, and feeling more and more dangerous to American democracy, Eric's approach to making it stop is to make it hurt very badly financially for the people spreading it.
The way you can sometimes send a message is with damages. And there are occasions where a company like Smartmatics has been damaged so much that the recovery that they are entitled to receive is significant even for a company as big as Fox. And I think that sends a message, and hopefully people don't want to be the next Fox.
So in that way, Eric says, this lawsuit is a very tangible way of combating disinformation, a problem which can feel so impossible.
Smartmatics doesn't have the microphone that Fox has. They can't turn on and put somebody on the air and immediately reach hundreds of millions of people. But what they can do is they can file a lawsuit like this. That is an opportunity for Smartmatics to correct the record in a fair way, in a way that they can't do anywhere else.
Here's where I need to show my own cards a bit.
Okay. Now, yes, it's sad that it comes down to that you have to sue. I don't like this. And again, I don't like censoring media and silencing media, but you can't just go on the air and spread lies and wrong information. And again, I don't care. Look, I'm going to make it very clear. On one hand, there's a part of me, I don't care what Fox News does, right? They're not a Christian network. They don't hold any biblical morality. I don't care what they do. But I care that Christians and that the church bought into this narrative without any discernment. They didn't take every thought captive. They didn't go, wait a minute, we need proof. I'm not going to share this till we have proof. No, they went and spread it, and they put it on Christian radio. And And that's the problem. When the church doesn't even care to follow the biblical morality of truth. Fox News is not going to follow it, but Christians should. And that's the problem. Now, this gentleman who's talking, he's getting ready to talk about a situation where he released some information and, well, he's got his own checkered past when it comes to this kind of thing, all right? And this is another thing that bothered me, but let's listen to it.
Until about a year ago, I ran BuzzFeed News. And in that role, I actually was known for a pretty aggressive belief in the media's right to publish. In particular, I decided to publish the Steele dossier, when traditional news outlets would not.
The 35-page document, prepared by a former British spy, alleges the Trump campaign colluded with the Russians and includes uncorroborated, salacious allegations about Trump himself.
I knew it had unconfirmed and even false information in it, and we made that clear when we published it.
Ben, you made the call when this happened. Do you have any regrets about publishing this entire document?
But I also thought the public had a right to see it.
The default now is...
Now, this raises a question. When should the media report information? If you have information, you can't verify it, you know there's things in it that are false, you let everyone know, hey, these allegations haven't been confirmed and there's information in here that's false, but we think you have a right to see it. Is that acceptable? The Steele dossier led to the whole Russian Trump collusion story that ran as well. And that's what a lot of people are going to do. Well, we may have got Smartmatic wrong, but they got the Russian collusion thing wrong. You don't justify bad behavior by pointing at bad behavior, so don't even give me that. The issue is, just look at yourself in Christian media. What did we get wrong? What did Christians get wrong? That's what we need to focus on. But the issue is, if, let's say, a news media has information, everyone else gets to see it, the public doesn't. Should they release that information so that the public can see it, even though they know, hey, this has wild allegations, false information, and things that we cannot get any confirmation of? Should that be released? Should that be released? Now, that's an ethical question. I think on one hand, the people should have a right to see it. On the other hand, though, can people... No, well, put it this way. Should people get to see it? I think in some ways they should. I think it should be clearly identified that this information has not been verified and that it contains things that are absolutely false. And here are the false things within it. But here is the information that's going around. I think you can do that. Because I don't think that there should be some, large group somewhere. They get to determine what people can handle and can't handle. So I like information being made available. But if you take that information that's not verified, that's not confirmed, and then you create a narrative and then sell that narrative as if it's fact, that is now where you go from just giving information to now molding that information into a false narrative and then selling it that way. That is problematic. All right. So let's continue.
If you want your audience to trust you, our job is not to primarily to be gatekeepers, to decide what to suppress and keep from our audience. It's primarily to share with our audience what we've got.
Major media outlets had it, and politicians, intelligence officials. CNN had even reported that it existed and had been briefed to two presidents of the United States, the president and the president-elect. The American people were basically the only ones who hadn't seen it.
Well, exactly 1 year ago tonight, BuzzFeed released the Trump dossier to the public, even though they couldn't verify any of its contents, some of which were scandalous and salacious. We blasted for them at the time. Now they're getting sued.
And I was sued over that decision by people mentioned in the dossier. Like most editors, I've been on the receiving end of a number of defamation threats and lawsuits. And so in general, I've been highly skeptical and alarmed by lawsuits that try to stop media organizations from getting information out into the world. But I have to confess, the events of the past few years have started to shake my conviction a bit. As I've watched misinformation run rampant and system after system fail, I find myself hesitantly open to the idea that Eric may be onto something, that the courts may be one of the few tools available. But I'm still really wary of the implications. Now, I have to say, as you probably know, I've spent my career as a reporter and occasionally as a defendant in these cases. And the way companies use defamation law makes me nervous. And if you look at the Me Too movement, a lot of important stories were kept silent because of legal threats. And I worry that maybe journalists who think that Fox News was doing crazy stuff will cheerlead this case only to see tightened defamation laws kind of suppress all sorts of true stories. I mean, should we be worried about that?
I don't think any reporter that does his or her job and pays attention to the facts and reports what they believe to be true has anything to worry about with a case like this. This is a case where we are alleging a story was simply fabricated. And when you fabricate a story and it causes great damage, then you should be worried about that. But I don't think that's something that most responsible journalists do.
I certainly agree with you on that. But that huge verdict you won against ABC News was not you didn't allege a kind of vast conspiracy to make something up from scratch. I think you alleged a series of errors that were, allegedly damaging to your clients. And that's the kind of thing that makes me nervous, that a news operation is crippled over, allegedly misrepresenting some beef processing processes. Aren't these all part of the same fabric?
The burden of proof on a plaintiff bringing a defamation case is very high. And so the courts have provided a lot of protection for journalists. The responsible journalists don't have anything to worry about. They're not going to ultimately lose. The ones who are transgressing your norms, transgressing your responsibilities, are the ones that are in the crosshairs for these types of lawsuits.
There's already some evidence to be found that these lawsuits are having a real impact, long before they've come close to being decided. Fox dialed back its claims about the election late last year after threats from Smartmatic. And then this week, a video went viral.
Joining us now to discuss is the founder and CEO of MyPillow and the author of the book, What Are the Odds? Mike Lindell. Mike, thank you so much for joining us and welcome. So what happened? What happened with your Twitter account and the company page?
It showed the CEO of a company called MyPillow in an appearance on Newsmax. He'd been invited to come on to discuss cancel culture and deplatforming. He'd just been kicked off Twitter for spreading false claims about election fraud.
Well, first mine was taken down because we have all the election fraud with these Dominion machines. We have 100% proof. And then when they took it down about 3 weeks ago, and then I put it back up.
But all he wanted to talk about was his belief in the fraud itself.
Mike, thank you very much. Mike, you're talking about machines that we at Newsmax have not been able to verify any of those kinds of allegations.
And it clearly terrified Newsmax anchor literally pulled out a document.
Let me read you something there. While there were some clear evidence
and began reading what was obviously a corporate statement they'd been given.
The election results in every state were certified, and Newsmax accepts the results as legal and final.
Language to make very clear that this news organization does not believe fraud occurred. After weeks, of course, of saying it did. And weeks of saying Smartmatic was part of that. Did you see that clip of the CEO of MyPillow on Newsmax getting kind of cut off to the point where one of the hosts walks away as he tries to spread election misinformation? What did you make of that?
I saw Newsmax reacting to the fact that they had received a retraction demand letter from Smartmatic and trying to take a step to make sure that they don't make the situation any worse.
Thank you again for taking the time. And we'll obviously be following this one closely.
All right. Thanks, Ben.
A lot of us are following this closely, wondering, with all our reservations, whether this lawsuit could damp down some of the insanity that sometimes seems like it's overrun American politics. But there are real limits to what lawsuits can do. There's another one making its way through the courts right now, this one against Alex Jones, the InfoWars founder. The plaintiffs are the parents of children murdered at Sandy Hook who have already forced Jones to acknowledge that their kids really did die, that it wasn't theater as he had claimed. But that doesn't make someone like Jones vanish. If you were watching the insurrection at the Capitol last month, there he was with his bullhorn, telling the crowd, quote, "We won this election." And as long as you're not defaming a person or a company, there's no law against lying.
Trump's only minutes away. Let's start marching to the Capitol. Peacefully. Notice, like Don Jr. said, we're not burning buildings down or shooting cops.
On Thursday afternoon, in a statement to The Times, Fox News responded to the lawsuit from Smartmatic, saying, quote, "We are proud of our 2020 election coverage and will vigorously defend this meritless lawsuit in court." We'll be right back.
Well, there you have it. There you have it. When I heard that late last night, I was just like, unbelievable. Unbelievable. And we'll see how it all plays out. We'll see how it all plays out. I've seen people say, oh, that's good. They can call Smartmatic and they're going to be able to prove once and for all that the election was stolen. Look, there's no way if Smartmatic, you just have to think about this reasonably. There's no way Smartmatic would file a lawsuit for billions of dollars if they knew that, if we take this to court, we're going to get found out. They're going to be able to examine the information and they're going to be able to find out that we actually stole the election. Look, if the software wasn't even used in the states that you're contesting and they can clearly prove that it wasn't used, then you made up the story and Fox News is going to be in serious trouble. And look, Fox News can talk all brave. They talk bravely and act like that they're all brave about this. But the reality is they already got one of their top rated hosts they already got rid of. Why? Because he was named in the lawsuit. They're backtracking. They started releasing those statements that we didn't say this and we're backing this up and we're going to take a step back from this. They started all of that just like Newsmax did. Why? Because they know they were promoting lies and false information. And Smartmatic needs to go after Rudy Giuliani. They need to go after Sidney Powell. They need to go after Donald Trump. They need to go after American Family Radio. They need to go after everyone. And the whole Sandy Hook thing, I was in the middle of that controversy because after the Sandy Hook shooting, I started getting videos sent to me by listeners who claim to be Christian saying, look, this YouTube video shows the Sandy Hook shooting was not real. There were crisis actors. It was fake. No children actually died. Christians were promoting that way back then. Why? Because they were listening to Alex Jones. Because Christians have lost their absolute minds when it comes to the subject of truth. Let me say it again. They're worried about the craziness in the world of politics. They're worried about the craziness in the world of right-wing media. I am concerned about what's happening inside churches. Why people in the pew can't seem to have, they seem to have lacked the ability to go, wait a minute. Let's make sure this information is true. Wait a minute. We don't want to bear false witness. We don't want to lie about people. We don't want to destroy another person's business. We don't want them to get death threats. We don't want to do that to anyone because we love people. We're supposed to even love our enemy. So we're not going to do this. So we're not going to engage in this activity. Instead of spreading misinformation on social media, let me spread truth. Let me try to be someone who can bring light to the subject instead of misinformation. But no, Christians seem incapable of doing that. Now, when I say Christians, obviously I'm not speaking of every Christian on the face of the planet. I'm saying that there are a large portion of the Christian world. Again, American Family Radio would be one big example of someone who could not stop from doing this and spreading this information over and over and over and over again. And that is wrong. That's my issue. Look, all media, it doesn't matter who they are. They need to get back to, we as Christians, and a lot of times Christians will say that, I don't trust the media because they lie. Okay, well, instead of worrying about the media lying, how about you? How about what information you've shared? How about what information you've posted? How about the things you've told other people? We got to first worry about ourselves. We've got to start within Christianity first. Worry about Christian media. Worry about pastors. How about all the lies Christians have told about the COVID-19 pandemic? Misinformation after misinformation after misinformation, misrepresenting statistics, misrepresenting numbers, lying to their congregations about COVID-19. We got a truth problem inside Christianity. That's my concern. And we'll see how this lawsuit plays out. We'll see how it plays out. I have a feeling Fox News is going to want to settle this out of court. That's what I think is going to happen. They're going to try to settle this out of court. They want this to go away as fast as possible. So, hey, how much money will you take? We'll write you a check. We don't have to acknowledge any wrongdoing. You get your money, and then everyone can go their separate ways. That's typically, and it's going to be barely reported, and then everyone will just move on with their lives, and nobody's going to have to bear any responsibility. That's how it always plays out with these big companies. They got enough money, they'll just write a giant check, and then they don't have to bear any responsibility, and everyone just walks away, and nobody cares that truth was destroyed and lies were promoted. That's my prediction. We'll see if I'm right. All right, you can email me your thoughts about all of this to newsif@yahoo.com. Newsif@yahoo.com. That's newsif@yahoo.com. All right, I got to get ready for Sunday school and Sunday morning. Both of those will be streamed live. It'll be under the VBC podcast if you want to listen this morning. The VBC podcast, if you have the Spreaker app, you can listen to us live there. VBC, it'll be under the VBC podcast. All right, thank you. Everyone have a great day. Speak the truth. Don't bear false witness. Pretty basic stuff. God bless.